Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sales B12, the 10-minute dose of sales you don't want to miss. I'm Caryn Kopp, Chief Door Opener. We are best known for the door opener service, where we get our clients in the door with their prospects for the first meeting. And I'm here with Jack Daly, internationally known sales guru, and we are here to discuss how do you get the stuck proposals to close. And Jack, I'm sure you're hearing this too in your seminars, but all the seminars I'm doing, this is a huge concern across industries. Many are blaming this on economic uncertainty and decision makers not feeling comfortable with making decisions. But what are you seeing out there? What are some of the reasons why these proposals are getting stuck in the first place? Does it have as much to do with economic uncertainty as everybody says?
So, Caryn, you know that I'm a voracious reader and that I have some really classic favorite books. And one of my favorite books is Mindset, and that's written by Carol Dweck. And she basically says people come in one of two varieties: growth mindset or fixed mindset. And the beauty is we're not born into it. We actually get to choose, and we can choose at any stage of life. And so a fixed mindset person would look at a stuck proposal and first volley go, well, it's happening to everyone. It's the economy. It's the economic uncertainty. Those are all external arrows that you're shooting. You got to go inward. The growth mindset person says, okay, if I'm running into proposals being stuck, my competitors are as well. So how can I take this disadvantage and turn it into an advantage? How can I make this a win for me rather than a loss? So all that comes back to, hey, I'm in control, not the externals. So given that, and I am a growth mindset person, been that way my whole life, the first thing that I tell sellers is you have to better understand the prospect's process and structure. How many levels of approval are going to be needed in order for you to get to the yes, to the end zone? Can you get into that levels at a higher level? And we've talked about that on other discussions that we've had on B12. Understand the time frame that typically the prospect has inside their organization, because maybe it's not stuck at all. It's moving at a very rapid pace from the viewpoint of the prospect. And then so all of that understanding structure and process of the prospect, I think, is important. And that just needs conversation on the front end and doing a bit of homework before you're starting to make the call. The other thing I talk about is this: discuss your expectations early. In other words, I, as a salesperson, I value my time. It's not just my prospect's time. And so I only have a certain amount of hours, and I need to make sure that I'm investing them in the right place at the right time. So I'm a busy guy. And so if we're going to tell me that it's going to take 6 months, and I was thinking it's going to take 3 weeks, well, let's have a dialogue on that so that I can then decide how often I ought to be getting back with you. So by the way, that's a strong message for a salesperson to send. That's one of confidence, and that's not pushing person away. That's actually an attractor, not a detractor. Again, it's mindset. What are you seeing in terms of moving to close with proposals?
Yeah, there's a strategy to this too. And as you're turning inward to figure this out, if you think about and use this phrase, this is a great phrase: under what circumstances? Under what circumstances could this move forward? And I'll share with you one of the things that went on with one of our clients a couple of years back, where she was selling a $300,000 service/product to a certain level within pharma. And it was the VP of marketing. The VP of marketing said, "This is great. This is revolutionary. I can't wait to have this." But at $300,000, you know where it had to go. It had to go to procurement. And procurement would say, you know what? We have agencies of record that do this. So thanks for the idea. I'm going to go ask them if they can do this. And so she was sad, and we were all sitting around talking. And the idea came up, like, under what circumstances could the VP of marketing say yes? And then she's like, under no circumstances. I'm like, come on, under what circumstances? And then it occurred to her that the VP of marketing could approve $100,000 expense without going to procurement. And I said, well, that's really interesting. What if we broke this into 3 parts? Would that person be able to say yes to the 100,000, knowing that you had to do the next part and the part after that? And then you can eliminate procurement to begin with. Would that work? Would that be the circumstances? And it was. So she chunked down her offering. And then that whole situation took care of itself. And she didn't have proposals that were stuck in what was a very normal sales cycle. So I think what you said before is really critical, because depending on what you're selling, you're offering, depending on who you're selling it to and how you're messaging it within your clients or your prospects organization, you could be slowing down the process, or you could be right on track with a process that is naturally slow. So could that proposal have moved any faster is another thing that people can ask their themselves.
Hey, you know what you just did? Caryn, I loved what you just did. You went from, I want to paint this visual. You went from the prospect sitting on one side of the desk and the seller sitting on the other side, and you picked your chair up and sat next
Awesome.
to the prospect, and became a joint team of how can we make this get to the finish line. That's absolutely gold.
Yeah, I'm really glad. And one thing that I will bring up having to do with economic uncertainty that I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, but we serve a lot of different industries. So across the industries, if there is good economic news at the beginning of the week, proposals close that week. If there's bad economic news at the beginning of the week, the proposals are just in process. So I recommend to everybody, if you have a week with good economic news, get on the phone and call your prospects, because this may just be the week that they'll feel comfortable enough to move forward.
Awesome. I love that.
So what suggestions do you have for finding prospects who are spending? Let's take it there, because maybe not all prospects are spending, and that's some of the reasons why the proposals are stuck. So what recommendations do you have for finding prospects that are more likely to spend?
So when I think about that, I think about the pipeline. A solid pipeline pretty much solves everything. But when I start to talk about pipeline with my clients, and as you know, I do a good bit of CEO coaching these days. Well, one of the things that we find is that too many sellers are calling on too many people that don't deserve to be called on.
That's right.
The key is to find the right ones and spend more time with them. And so if I'm analyzing a salesperson's pipe, it's not the number of prospects that are in that pipe. In fact, I work very diligently with sellers to cut the number down. But what are the hallmarks of what a good prospect that is going to spend? We each, you and I, have our one-liners as speakers. And, one of mine is 168 hours. That's the number of hours we're all blessed with every week. But some of us are getting more traction out of our 168 than others. And I'm going to suggest that the sellers that really dial in on that one concept, on the quality of your pipeline, that's going to render you people that are going to be, quote unquote, more inclined to spend. Yeah.
So I agree with that. Yeah. And there's my one-liner as it has to do with that, which is probably a challenging kind of line where I'm challenging other people's thinking with this line. It's not about who you know. Most people will say, oh, it's about who you know. It's not about who you know. It's about who needs to know you. And are you spending your time with the people who need to know you, whether or not the people you know them.
Yeah, and you know what, I will tell you that, and I'm processing something that we just talked about, but a second voice can be very powerful. The person who represents me in my business, her name is Jennifer, and Jennifer will be working an account for 6 months, and we're not getting anywhere. And I'll say, well, gosh, let me come back into play. And if the manager comes back into play with the prospect and says, hey, we wouldn't be practicing good selling if my seller wasn't contacting you on a regular ongoing basis, but it doesn't seem that this is going anywhere. I don't want to be an irritant. So if you want, we'll just take you out of the pipeline, or what would you suggest that we do? I'm going to tell you, Caryn, that 90% of the time that Jennifer will ask me to do something like that, 90% of the time, within 24 to 48 hours, we have a book deal. We have a closed deal. And so, I have to teach sellers to get their ego out of the way, and raise your hand and say, hey, can you help here? And so a sales leader can work with their team. And if your team isn't asking for your help, push them in terms of how you could be helpful, and signal that you're available, right?
Yeah, those are great tips for sellers and for the leaders as well. Well, this has been a great episode of Sales B12, and I'm glad everybody here is listening. Please think about reviewing some of the other Sales B12 episodes. There's all sorts of sessions that are chock full of tips and ideas to help you to accelerate your sales success. And thank you, Jack, for being with me. I look forward to the next one.
Hey, Caryn, don't leave just yet. I want to tag on that as well. I'm now getting feedback pretty regularly from people saying these things are real gold, and make sure that we keep doing them. So to those listeners that are just catching us for the first time, everything is in the library. You can go back, and most of it is relevant in today's environment.
Yeah, awesome. And don't forget to share it with your teams, post it on social media, and share with those you know, so that they can be helped too by some of these tips and ideas. I'm really glad you said that, Jack. All right, everybody, we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day.